day, beautiful soul family, or good evening, and welcome to On Another Level. And today, I was wrestling with something, and I brought it to Divine Spirit's attention for counsel. Because as I mentioned before, we are all at a fork in the road, and it's based on wisdom on how we deal with such matters. And Divine Spirit have brought attention to the story of Lot. And so I ran my errands, was responding to Divine Spirit's message. And as I began looking at it, because Lot, I had, that's entied with Abraham, which is entied with Sodom and Gomorrah. And when I think about Sodom and Gomorrah, it's so interesting because in Revelations it talks about Sodom and Egypt. And it would be like the days of Noah. And so as I was praying, the Divine Spirit was talking about Lot's wife. And I think I spoke about this before. I channeled it. And it was in reference to, when it's time to move on, it's time to move on, and don't look back. You can truly forgive. That is, when I think about forgiveness, as I've stated, it is a catalyst, okay? It is a catalyst that brings you towards healing. And forgiveness is timeless. You can forgive someone and still not have them in your life. When I think about Lot, immediately we are, if you've read the Bible, if you've gone to church, if you have family members that read the Bible, my mom reads the Bible, got us into reading the Bible. I get my sons into reading the Bible. And again, it's connected to Sodom and Gomorrah. Now, Lot was a family member to Abraham. And it's so interesting because in order to understand Lot, you have to understand, where you're coming from is where you're going to. So Abraham and Lot, they left. And the Divine Spirit says, this is all of your land. And so there was, between the servants of Abraham and Lot, Abraham was like, just look over the land. Which direction do you want to go? Wherever you're going, I'm going to go into the opposite direction. And so when I look at it, Divine Spirit is telling me about settling. Okay? And Lot settled in the land of Sodom and Gomorrah. Okay? And he thought that was, again, according to his likeness. And so, as Lot and his family and his servants and their cattle left for Sodom, he went elsewhere. And what's so interesting is that Abraham had a lot of land, was given a lot of land. What I think about is about the mind. The conditioning of the mind, the body will follow suit. And so, interesting enough, Lot had a very conditioned mind. And it's understandable, you know. And so anyways, Sodom and Gomorrah it had a lot of things going on there. Okay? A lot of things were running rampant and very disgusting and very animalistic. Even animals. I don't even want to say animalistic, because even animals didn't carry on in that way, in that fashion. So anyways, you know, Lot and his family, they were there. His daughters had son-in-laws, you know. But there came a time where three visitors came, and this is found in Genesis chapter 19. Actually chapter 18. And it talks about Abraham has 3 visitors. Now what's so interesting is that, because I was just, you know, it's like I've read this when I was younger, and according to my maturity, I was able to see certain things as important, you know, especially about Sodom and Gomorrah, and how when the Divine Spirit tells you, you know, sends forth angels especially, and gives you a way out, as brought out in today's reading, gives you a way out. You could be stuck in a fork in the road. Do you continue on in the path that you are on, or are you going to go, or are you going to leave? What are you going to do? It's all up to you, you know. But you are given a way out. And so, the Divine Spirit was showing me that, you know, in order to talk about Lot and his wife and the angels that were helping Lot and his family to escape, they were the way out for Lot and his family. You have to talk about Abraham. Now, even before that, Abraham had circumcised himself. It says it. Let me get my glasses. Where are you? Abraham had circumcised himself, or got himself circumcised, at the age of 99. Yeah, at the age of 99. And he had his son Ishmael circumcised at 13. On the same day, Abraham and his son Ishmael were circumcised, and all the men of his household, whether born in this household or purchased from a foreigner, were circumcised with him. So he had pretty much brought forth the covenant of being circumcised. Circumcised is cutting off at the flesh, that extra flesh, okay? But it's a sign of covenant. It's a sign of, I am willing to sacrifice my flesh to have a covenant with you, Divine Spirit. And so it doesn't matter what age. He was 99 now. Around this time frame, we look at 99 as, oh my goodness. Right? He's got 1.5 feet in the grave, right? But back then it was totally different. He was still going to have more children. And at that appointed time, Sarah was even laughing at that when it was brought to her attention. And sure enough, you see what's so interesting is that these angels, they were speaking by the means of, it was no past, present, or future. They already saw Abraham and his children at that point in time that Abraham and Sarah didn't have children together. Okay? And the Lord was saying, do I tell Abraham what's about to happen? What I love about this is that Abraham did the necessary things to create that covenant with divine spirit, with the Lord. Okay, it says the Lord. And he was asking, what if 50? What if 5 less? What if 45? As I was reading it, I felt a little something going on in my heart, because I thought it's so beautiful how, we can communicate with divine spirit, and divine spirit already knows how this conversation is going. And still continued to take the time to talk with Abraham. And Abraham was like, listen, I know I'm just dust and ashes, but what about this? And what about that? What about... He knew why he was asking. Divine Spirit knew why Abraham was asking, because of I think Lot was his nephew. And if I'm not, then I apologize. If I'm wrong, then I apologize. Anyways, what Divine Spirit was telling me was about Lot's wife, and in going into Sodom and Gomorrah, the whole reasoning why Lot was being saved is because of Abraham. Because Abraham prayed. He made the necessary changes in his life through circumcision. But then he still prayed, and he asked, what about this? And what about this number? And what about that number? And each time, Divine Spirit was showing such patience and love. And so the other 2 angels, they went into Sodom and Gomorrah and went straight to Lot's home. And said the people were... They knew when people were coming in and out. See, I'm from the city of New York. And so there are nosy neighbors, but not really. And here, the people, they knew that Lot had visitors. And so, what's so interesting is that, and I want to read it because I think I just want to read it. It starts at chapter 19 and will end at verse 29. Let it speak for itself. Let Divine's word speak for itself. The 2 angels entered Sodom in the evening as Lot was sitting in Sodom's gateway. When Lot saw them, he got up to meet them. He bowed with his face to the ground and said, "My lords, turn aside to your servant's house, wash your feet, and spend the night. Then you can get up early and go on your way." "No," they said, "we'd rather spend the night in the square." But he urged them so strongly that they followed him and went into his house. He prepared a feast and baked unleavened bread for them, and they ate. Before they went to bed, the men in the city of Sodom both young and old. The whole population surrounded the house. They called out to Lot and said, "Where are the men who came to you tonight? Send them out to us so we can have sex with them." Lot went out to them at the entrance and shut the door behind him. He said, "Don't do this evil, my brothers. Look, I've got 2 daughters who haven't been intimate with a man. I'll bring them out to you, and you can do whatever you want to them. However, don't do anything to these men, because they have come under the protection of my roof." "Get out of the way," they said, adding, "This one came here as an alien, but he's acting like a judge. Now we'll do more harm to you than to them." They put pressure on Lot and came up to break down the door. But the angels reached out, brought Lot into the house with them, and shut the door. They struck the men who were at the entrance of the house, both young and old, with blindness, so that they were unable to find the entrance. Then the angel said to Lot, "Do you have anyone else here, a son-in-law, your sons and daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of this place, for we are about to destroy this place, because the outcry against its people is so great before the Lord that the Lord has sent us to destroy it." So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law who were going to marry his daughters. "Get up," he said. "Get out of this place, for the Lord is about to destroy the city." But his sons-in-law thought he was joking. At daybreak, the angels urged Lot on. "Get up, take your wife and your 2 daughters who are here, or you will be swept away in the punishment of the city." But he hesitated. Because of the Lord's compassion for him, the men grabbed his hand, his wife's hand, and the hands of his 2 daughters. They brought him out and left him outside the city. As soon as the angels got them outside, one of them said, "Run for your lives. Don't look back, and don't stop anywhere on the plain. Run to the mountains, or you will be swept away." But Lot said to them, "No, my lords, please. Your servant has indeed found favor with you, and you have shown me great kindness by saving my life. But I can't run to the mountains. The disaster will overtake me, and I will die. Look, this town is close enough for me to flee to. It is a small place. Please let me run to it. It's only a small place, isn't it? So that I can survive." And he said to him, "All right. I'll grant your request about this matter too, and will not demolish the town you mentioned. Hurry up. Run to it, for I cannot do anything until you get there." Therefore, the name of the city is Zoar. The sun had risen over the land when Lot reached Zoar. Then out of the city the Lord rained on Sodom and Gomorrah, and burning sulfur from the Lord. He demolished these cities, the entire plain, all the inhabitants of the cities, and whatever grew on the ground. But Lot's wife looked back and became a pillar of salt. Early in the morning, Abraham went to the place where he had stood before the Lord. he looked down towards Sodom and Gomorrah and all the land of the plain. And he saw that smoke was going up from the land, like the smoke of a furnace. So it was when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham and brought Lot out of the middle of the upheaval, when he demolished where Lot had lived. And so, just a few things have popped out. One, we can see how vicious the people were. One, they knew that Lot was not, they called him an alien. They knew that he and his family was not of Sodom and Gomorrah based on their actions, based on, mannerisms. I was a little annoyed, however, as to how Lot was going to, bring his daughters out there so that they can do whatever they wanted to his daughters. Because Lot knew there were angels. Another thing that brought out to me was the fact that the angels struck blindness upon these men, young and old. But truth be told, spiritually they were already blind. You see, Saul was struck with blindness from light. These people were already in the dark. Okay? And they were struck with blindness. They were struck with blindness so that they couldn't find the doorknob. Because they were surely trying to get in. And interesting enough, them being struck with blindness in the physical plane prevented the rest of the people from doing it. I feel like it says they struck, in verse 11 it said they struck the men who were at the entrance of the house, both young and old, with blindness, so that they were unable to find the entrance. Not everyone was struck with blindness, but the ones that were at the very entrance of the door. And so, there are a lot of people who, they just join in. They don't really know what's going on, but they join in. Misery loves company. Two angels, I thought was interesting because the angels had brought them to the outside of Sodom and Gomorrah. And they were telling Lot and his family to run for the mountain. What is so interesting is that Lot had went to his future, who was to be his sons-in-laws, and they weren't complimentary. They took it as a joke. You warn people because you consider them family, or at least good enough, right? But they laugh at you. They think you're joking. No, that's not going to happen. This old man telling us to flee. Come on, ain't nothing's going to happen. How many times have you expressed a need for change and they didn't take you seriously? Man, I don't think you should continue to smoke, or I don't think you should drink anymore, or whatever it is. Have you forewarned somebody that they needed to put forth change in their life? Not dealing with anybody else, but at least for their own sake? And did they laugh at you? Did they not take you seriously? And so I could just imagine, I'm there. I'm seeing the town of how it was. And had to go look for them. This was of great urgency. And then they turned around and they laughed. As if it's just a joke. So then he had to go back to his family. And then at that point, the angels said, listen. Matter of fact, they were like, you gotta go. But he was still hesitating. And because of compassion that they had, that the Divine Spirit had, says the Lord, okay? They just took their hands and quickly led them out. I want to know, how fast was that? Because when dealing with Divine Spirit, the angels, it's very immediate. Lot, he knew these angels were different. I don't know if it was energy. I don't know if it's how they looked. Usually you can tell when someone is not from a certain place. He just saw them and knew they were different. And I feel like the energy, because Abraham did the same thing. And even the people, the men of that town knew, young and old knew, these two people are different. Here it says, at daybreak the angels urged Lot on, get up, take your wife and your 2 daughters, this is verse 15, daughters who are here, or you will be swept away in the punishment of the city. See, if it wasn't for Abraham praying and asking, he would have been swept away. He and his family. But he hesitated. No one's perfect, right? No one. But hesitation causes accidents. That's one of the rules that I have in reference to driving. Hesitation causes accidents. Here it says 16, but he hesitated. Because of the Lord's compassion for him, the men grabbed his hand, his wife's hand, and the hands of his 2 daughters. They brought him out and left him outside the city. And then they said, run to the mountains. Lot still was like, please, I will die in these mountains. Can I just go to this small area? And what's so interesting is that Zoar is called small. And that's where they resided. Interesting enough, this is something that I didn't know about. Of course, I was young when I read this. And it wasn't exactly explained. What I got, according to my little young self, is that as they were in the midst of running, Lot's wife turned around. As they were in the midst of running. What's so interesting that I find here is that Lot and his wife were in Zoar. Because here it says this. where he says, but Lot said to them, no, my lords, please, your servant has indeed found favor with you, and you have shown me great kindness by saving my life. But I can't run to the mountains. The disaster will overtake me, and I will die. Look, this town is closer enough for me to flee to. It is a small place. Please, let me run to it. It's only a small place, isn't it? So that I can survive. And he said to him, all right, I'll grant to your request about the matter too, and will not demolish the town you mentioned. Hurry up, run to it, for I cannot do anything until you get there. Therefore the name of the city is called Zoar. I say again, verse 22, it says, hurry up, run to it. They were already on the outskirts of town. Because of the compassion, the angels brought him and his family out. And I'm sure, see, what I'm seeing is that it was done quickly. They brought them out quickly, to where Lot's wife couldn't even turn around. It was just like that. What I'm being told is immediacy. It was very immediate. It was like a whirlwind. And they were out of the city. They were on the outside of Sodom and Gomorrah. But they were instructed to go to the mountain. And Lot said, I'm not going to live. As a matter of fact, I'm going to die. They said in verse 22, hurry up and run to it, which is Zoar, for I cannot. Because of the prayer of Abraham, I cannot do anything until you get there. Now, when I read this when I was younger, I was seeing it from a point of they're running, and then Lot's wife turned around. Maybe this is how it's said in other Bibles, and this is why, for some reason I'm like, what's the right information? They were already out of Sodom and Gomorrah. And they, by request, were able to go to Zoar, which was not too far away from the mountain, but further away from Sodom and Gomorrah. And they could not do anything until they got to Zoar. But interesting enough, they still were told, do not look back. Do not look back. They were already brought to safety, but they were still instructed to go. And as they were in the midst of going, they were not to look back. How many of us, that do that work? We cleanse our lives. We even eat healthy. Make certain changes, lifestyle changes. But for some reason, we look back. Here it shows that they were already out of the city. They were on the outside, and all they had to do was keep on going. They were already brought to the clearing. They were already brought out of harm's way. Was it disbelief? What was causing Lot's wife to look back? So interesting. I was like, well, what is Lot's wife's name? What is her name? It's not found in here. In the Quran, it says that her name was Edith. But in the Bible, it doesn't show her name. And the point is that you may have family members, husbands, wives, girlfriends, boyfriends, friends. And if they're not doing the necessary work within, they will look back. The reason why she looked back is because a big chunk of her was still in Sodom and Gomorrah. A big chunk of her couldn't let it go. Even when it meant her freedom. There are a lot of people who do not want to let addictions go. They don't want to let certain lifestyles go because they are stuck. A person can be stuck and still be moving around. It's called the hamster wheel effect. Thinking you're going somewhere, but you're not going anywhere. The loophole. And so he loved his wife. But as they're already on the outskirts and they're going to Zoar, he followed instructions. See, when you do the work within, you take the necessary steps to move forward. And sometimes, you know, like I've mentioned this before, it's Divine Spirit was showing me the hand. How they were on the outskirts because the angels had brought them there. As I'm seeing, it's much better. But before I read this, it was like feeling the love of your life fall from the grips of your hand. And not wanting, I mean, at that point in time, they're gripped with fear, they're gripped with sorrow, they want to flee. They're just like, it's just so many things taking place because, wow, these are angels in our home. Wow, these people of the land of Sodom and Gomorrah wanted to have sex with them. They didn't even want virgin daughters. They were trying to beat down the door to satisfy their lust. All of this happening. This wasn't a matter of weeks. This was happening that night. He went to his son-in-law to be, sons-in-law to be, but it wasn't. And it's like, listen, you got to flee for your life. You got to make the necessary changes and come out, because if you don't, you will die. Maybe if there was that pause. You ever tell someone something very serious and there's that pause, like trying to let it set in, and then they're like, they start laughing? That's what happened. And they may have been laughing as he was still walking away. As he was walking away, they still probably was laughing. But he took his precious time to warn them. He could have been long gone. Part of the reasons why he hesitated is because, you know, back then, when you're about to be considered sons-in-laws to be, that was a very serious thing. It wasn't a 0 to 60. They all got to know one another, which is really so interesting why they didn't see the importance of taking heed. Because they laughed at him. It shows a lack of respect and honor. But you know, from the very get-go, Lot settled. Okay? He settled. And so it's that same energy, you know. I see Lot going back to his home. I have to make sure this is recording. Yeah. You know. But what I see is that Lot is going back to his home. And he's frightened. He's looking around. Something miraculous happened where the people that were in the interest of his home, they were, you know, they were stricken with blindness. And he knows that this is a very serious matter. He probably was thinking about, you know, Abraham. You know, when serious matters take place, we have so much things running in our mind. How could this be? You know, just so much. Why didn't they listen? It's so much regret, you know, so much fear and regret. Enough to cause him to hesitate. But because of compassion, the angels, which were called lords, the angels brought them quickly to safety. I mean, that must have been quick. Because even Lot's wife couldn't hesitate. Because finally, when they were on their way to Zoar, that's when she turned around. And she became a pillar of salt. Fire coming out of heaven. What exactly was going on in Lot's wife's mind? Why did she not have that urgency to leave and flee for her life? What was more important than her own life? As I was praying, Divine Spirit was showing me an oracle card that I have, and it's called attachment. And it's because of that attachment, whatever it is, whatever we're attached to, it was an illusion. It was such a strong illusion that she felt she couldn't live without it. Whatever it was. They didn't have much family. They didn't have much friends. So what was it? What was so much more important than her own life and her family? That even though when she was in safety, she still looked back. The fire was coming down out of heaven. Look, if that's not enough to run even faster, but for her it was something that caused her to look back. And interesting enough, we know of her actions, but according to this here Bible, we don't know her name. We don't know what she did. We didn't know how old she was. It's almost like she's blotted out. What are the things in our life, as we go within with self-love, self-care, self-nurture, what are the things that are in our life that needs to be released? What are the very things that we hold up higher than ourselves. Because as I look at this card, as I look at this card, she's holding this mask up higher than herself. What are the things that we idolize? Soul family, here it is. Here is the mask, but the mask she's holding up over herself. And here is that pillar. And she is so caught up in this illusion that she don't realize that she's stuck. Now this is a lady, but it could be a man. It could whoever. This room itself is caught up in cobwebs. It's dark. But she held this up above her to where she lost sight of what's actually taking place. It's almost like she's mesmerized by it. What are the things that keep us mesmerized? Is it a man and his looks? How smart he could be, how rich he is, the people he knows, connections. And for women, you know, for men, for women, is it a lady's curves? Is it a lady's look? Is it how she smells? Is it the people that she knows? Is it the money that she has? Friends. Is it what they may think about you? What is it? Addictions, situations, jobs. So as they were going into safety, what exactly was Lot's wife holding on to? And though this is something that you either heard about or slightly heard something about, or I think caught a movie. I don't really know if they have a movie. I guess I can look it up. But I don't really need a movie if I have the Bible. What exactly did Lot value that was greater than her own life and her own freedom? What are the things that we need to let go of? That will cause you to be stuck. And we can say all day long, people have said it, the Bible is outdated. It does not meet us where we stand. But I beg to differ. There is something that we all hold on to. And it's a matter of life and death. Usually, sometimes people bring forth change in their life when a family member loses their life or is in an accident and they realize, my goodness, I need to go ahead and do right with my life. Interesting enough, Lot's wife was so mesmerized by whatever it was that she didn't realize how stuck she was. She obviously was not in that same energy because her husband Lot saw that it was so much coming out from the heavens that he was definitely not turning around. Her daughters, their daughters, they left behind men that they were going to get married to. They were going, but they did not look back. if they look back, it would have said so. So that means Lot's wife was not complimentary. She was going through something in which she held above her family and her own life. And if anything, it's a question that we must ask ourselves. Now trust, I'm not holier than thou. But there's a lot of things, as I said, that I don't do. I don't like drama. There are certain movies I'm watching, I'm like, wait a second. Am I going to really spend my time watching this drama? I don't even have it in my life. I can't relate to this, so therefore, I'm not interested in it. I don't find it entertainment. Now trust, I love movies. But when I can't relate to something, I simply don't watch it. What are the things that are in our life that we need to let go of? I could think about a bunch of things. When it comes to, you know, what's so interesting is that with self-love, self-care, self-nurture, it's about you cutting off or putting things on hold so that you can go into a different path to go within. But what are some things that prevent us from doing that? We're coming to some times that are going to be drastically different. Things that we thought would not ever happen is happening. Things that were lurking beneath the surface is coming to the very top. Or we gonna see some changes. We are. Changes in the government. Changes in people. Changes, even more changes in how we do things. When you go to the doctor and they check your record, they're looking for your baseline. They're looking for history of your last visit. They're looking through all of that. So that they're not just, they have a direction. When you don't go within, there is no direction. There is no connection to divine spirit. There is no connection to angels that may be even there helping you to see certain things and giving you a message of fleeing. He still was in an energy where he hesitated. And because of compassion, they dragged them out of there. The thing about it, beautiful soul family, is that this scripture has been there for ages. It's been there for a very, very, very long time. You can look it up online. You can go into the Bible. It's there. But how many of us are waiting for an abrupt time to be awakened? It's like, are our eyes wide open or are our eyes wide shut? Her eyes were open, but it was still shut because even the fire hurling out of heaven couldn't break the illusionment that she had in her own mind that kept her stuck. What are the necessary things in our life that we need to release? It's not about going to somebody else. Oh, I'll do the work so that way I can have this man. Or I'll do the work so I can have this woman. I'll do the work so I can get this job. I'll do the necessary work just to pass by, just to settle. Going within with self-love, self-care, self-nurture, beautiful soul family, is about you going within. You doing that necessary work so that you can have a good baseline and a foundation in love. So that you will not be codependent on your friends and family when it's time for you to go. It's time for you to go to safety. It's time for you to come out. Because in Revelation it's saying, come out of Sodom and come out of Egypt. Come out from old paradigm shifts in the mind, where come out of old way of doing things. Come out of conditioned learnings. Come out. Come away. Disconnect. Because if you do not, you'll be swept away. If you do not, what the Vice Spirit was telling me was, what I was hearing was, some people go to jail, like they don't actually do it, but they are, starts with an A. Accessories. They are along with the whole scheme of it. So even though they didn't do the actual, I don't know why I'm hearing murder or death or whatever, they still were in cahoots. When you go within with self-love, self-care, self-nurture, you're paying attention to your intuition. You say, you know what, should I do this or should I not do this? Is this right? It settles in, but people are so amazed by the illusion, by the noise of the illusion even, that they don't realize they're being stuck. And this is not about judgment. This is about you going within. What is preventing you from going within yourself? What is preventing you from escaping your Sodom and Gomorrah, or your Sodom and Egypt? There are many, I also looked at this scripture right here in Proverbs chapter 16, verse 2, and it says, of all a person's ways see right to him, but the Lord weighs motives. And as we go within with self-love, self-care, self-nurture, we say, let's reflect on our life. Let's really hold ourselves accountable. Let's really think about, okay, what are the things that I need to let go of? What are the things that I need to hold on to? How is having this thing in my life preventing me from going within to understand who I am? Do I think that I'm this type of person because I have this other person in my life, or because I have money in my life, or because I have ... you fill in the blank? Who am I actually, And it's the things that I hold way above my own self. Is it more important than me? The things that I hold on to, people that I hold on to, situations that I've held on to, that I've held on to. Because here we see cobwebs right in this corner. It's cobwebs. Cobwebs coming along here. Even cobwebs. It looks like cobwebs are all along here. I'm seeing something more. But those chains are empty. And as I look at it, Divine Spirit is saying, well, you know, she has two hands, but, you know, how in the world is she going to hold up this illusion? This is something, this is more like, what I get from this is also a Ten of Wands. Ten of Wands is where you're willingly carrying burdens. And because of your choice, you choose to carry these responsibilities, these burdens that you don't even have much. So that she doesn't realize that there's a chain that is here, but nobody else is there. All she sees is this illusion. Have you been there? Was that once you? Because interesting enough, the angels brought Lot's wife on the outside of the city of Sodom and Gomorrah. And the angels said that we cannot, thanks to Abraham's prayers, you know, thanks to your ancestors' prayers. These angels said, I cannot do anything unless you are there. And even while they were there, they still could not look back. Even though they were in safety before it all began, she still looked back. Looking back is still longing for the things that are no longer in our life. As we are in safety, are we still longing for things that are connected to lower base toxicities? And so divine feminines, especially when someone is trying to come back into your life. Now it could be of good, because this person could actually be doing the work. But you will be able to feel the energy. Is the energy about moving forward, or is it about keeping you behind? Is it going to lead to a point of where you're together but there is a tearing away? And these are questions that we ask ourselves. So beautiful soul family, this is just something that the Divine Spirit was showing me as I was in the midst of prayer. And usually I may pray before I get in the car. I definitely pray in the morning. But there's always, sorry for the pause, but we all go through situations in our life where we say, oh, okay, is this going to help me move forward? Is this person, if I bring them back into my life, is it a hindrance? It's funny because the daughters, they left it behind. And that would have been their whole unit, their whole family. Family means a lot to me. And my sons would say all for one and one for all. We're like the Three Musketeers. Sometimes when you are fleeing for your life, especially spiritually, there may be some people that you're going to have to leave behind. The question is, can you do that? If you don't do the work,